Let's move across the pond
Oh, wow.
because I want to ask about Boris Johnson, because when he was the nominee for when he was like going to run for the Tory party, is that what his party is, the Tory party?
Okay.
When he was going to run for that, people asked me if he was going to get in, and I saw him getting in and leaving, like going in for a short time and then leaving. And when he got and I thought, when he took over for a short time, I thought, oh well, he'll probably lose. Then when he won, I was like confused, because I really did see him like come in and come out.
Mm-hmm.
So when he got sick, I really worried that he was not going to make it, because it was like he was in and out, but he did. And so I'm thinking now, is it that this experience that he had is going to change him? So it is like the old Boris left and the new one's coming in, because two immigrants were by his bedside for 2 days, and that's why he lived.
Oh my
So,
God,
and he said them by name. They're nurses, and one was from Brazil, I think, and one was from New Zealand. But they were both stood by his bedside for 2 days straight, and that's why he lived. Wow. And so he also came out hailing the NHS, which as a candidate he was kind of railing, whatever against. Mm-hmm. But I just wondered if maybe that's how it was coming across to me, was that he would be in and out, but maybe that it'd be in and he'd be changed. And I think that's the part about reading that is difficult sometimes. I think people think that everything is so clear when you get visions, or when you get, and really there's so much interpretation that goes into it that sometimes you're wrong. I always feel like there's something right about what you're getting, mm-hmm. but you can interpret it wrongly or something, or you can get it because of your mindset or whatever, you can get it kind of distorted. But and I just wanted to see if you.
Okay, I was going to say there's a tendency, I think, with human beings when we get that sort of imagery to want to figure out how. Like how, like you might see this, and you're like, yeah, but how's that going to happen? And then that's sort of the trap in a way, So, okay, Boris Johnson, the energy, Boris Johnson. So I said 2 cards, I kept saying 2 cards, but this one threw me, because I didn't know we were going to do a Boris Johnson question, sorry. I just had, it's so weird how we're getting so many major arcana cards. I mean, especially when you're just pulling like 1 or 2.
Oh, yeah.
I got the Magician.
Oh, Magician. Interesting.
So it is that feeling of, what it is this experience has given him a whole new, because the Magician has all the tools of the tarot, all the cards, it has all these. Uh-huh. It is a matter of this experience giving him a whole new set of tools to sort of walk through life with. And it's also this feeling of, you can see like the wand and the infinity symbol. It's like opened him up. Uh-huh. It's like literally, that's what I see, is like him being opened up to a whole new thing. I feel like he has to settle with this. It's been a little bit overwhelming to him. I feel like, it's in a way, it's like filled him with, or restored his humanity in a way. He's going to have to wrestle with this quite a while, but right away, I think there's going to be some changes. I feel like there's a connection between him and this child that hasn't been born yet, that his child that mm-hmm. was in play while he was, I want to say unconscious, that, so I don't know if he was at the time or somehow maybe in sleep or something, that there was almost like a communication of this feeling of the next generation and this sort of, do this for me, like what would you want from me? And through that sort of communication, he was able to feel that for like everybody's child. he sort of gets that now, gets that better,
Right.
that everybody's child, like we're, it's not just, I don't know, it's very interesting, but it does feel like it was, again, almost magical, but more just very spiritual in the way that it opened him. And there was a lot of force behind it to have him sort of go through this process, because it was like he should have awakened a long time ago. Like, it feels like in his youth, there was some sort of, like, late teens or early 20s, there was some sort of shift with him. And he became, he sort of went down this way, this other probable self. And, and there was this push by like his guides and stuff, and spirits who love him, and this unborn child, to push him back to this other road that he was on previously. And well, he's pretty set on it now. He's got to figure some things out. Just, I mean, like practical things that he, like you said, that he's endorsed and not endorsed and stuff like that. And that he's going to have to figure out how to shift that and sort of maintain power. He's got to sort of, which many people think, oh, that might be a bad thing, but it's not a bad thing, because not only does he have this shift, he represents the ability to shift. So it's like, it's representative of what's happening overall to all of us. It's sort of symbolic of that, these small things that are happening internally for so many people, and they echo out into the world. And he's just got a broader audience, or more people that he affects directly in this lifetime.
That he's here.
Is that what you've thought about him? Is that what you?
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I even thought maybe that he had either a near-death experience or a spiritual experience during this time, because I almost feel like he chose to stay, that he had the choice to leave.
And it has to do with that child.
Go to the other side. Yeah. I think so too. I think you're right, Kris.
I think there's definitely some kind of communication there. You're right. Spot on.
Right. So, should we move to, what was the last thing we were going to talk about? Okay. All right. So I thought, for our last kind of thing, especially for Easter, I think people are really thinking about renewal, resurrection, that idea. And I know my reading for yesterday for Easter was very much touched on that, when I was kind of connecting with the other side, just to give a little bit of an idea of what's going on. So I thought maybe you could pull a couple of cards to kind of give advice for people during this pandemic. Just general advice to people during this time. To help them.
I was shuffling extra long because I had this feeling I should pull 3 cards, but then I'm like, 3 cards.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. No, that's okay. That's all right.
Okay.
You can always edit, or whatever if you, it's fine.
Maybe I should redo it. I'll put these down.
Whoa.
Right? Okay. So this King of Cups, this is, so, I've been talking about on my channel, if anybody has seen some of the videos I've done recently, I pulled one time this, just a couple readings ago, this King of Cups. And I said, this is, it talked about like leaders who we need this love. But here's what it is in this instance, and this is why it's the first card, and what everybody needs to know is this is talking about the King of Cups, that is really not only the all that is, the God concept, the Christ consciousness, however you want to think about it, that is overriding, that you can have faith in and rely on this love. And it's King of Cups because cups are about love and stuff like that. So it's just talking about this overriding love. And this comes from the those masters that I've been talking about on my channel too, that I keep getting sort of messages from, and they're, like I said before, I was calling them like the masters of the pandemic, but now then I was switched to the masters of the rising. But I just think of these masters that are sort of guiding us through this and helping us through this, and that is their message, is this, it's like, don't worry, this is all done in love. You're protected by love. This is the purpose, is love. And we have to broaden our concept of love and what it means, because it has a lot to do with truth, with acceptance, especially of ourselves, acceptance of love. It has to do with being non-judgmental, but also pushing forward humanity, humaneness, and love itself. Okay? So then you get this card, and when you see all three cards, you're like, oh, these are difficult cards. But this is our reminder, while we're here literally in lockdown. I mean, see how she feels?
Yeah.
It feels like we're just tied up and locked down and stuff like that. But what we have to remember, the message of this this Eight of Sword card is always that we're not, even though you can see the figure in the card is like blindfolded and bound, you can see her feet aren't bound. The water always represents our spirituality and our inner selves and stuff like that. She has the ability to walk away, and in walking away, sort of loose, that there's nothing about her that's tied so tightly that she couldn't get out of it. So it's this idea that while we're in lockdown, we still have the ability to reach those inner parts of ourselves, reach the people that are surrounding us in a good way, and the good things, our intellect and our spirituality and our trust and love, and also our remembrance. You see that, like the castle in the background and stuff. This is our homes. This is our remembrance of the strength that they bring us, and we're all being forced to remember that now. And if it's difficult, like your home situation, part of the thing that's going on now is coming to understand what needs to change, coming to understand that you still have the power, and eventually will have the power to even like move on to, all these bindings and these swords that feel like they're around us are going to be loosed. And that's why you get this card. And the Tower card, again, another major arcana card. When you get the Tower card, so often I will get it in a reading for somebody who's gone through a really hard time, and it's sort of acknowledging it and sort of saying, yeah, that was hard, this is difficult. And this card is a little bit less that, and it's more about the power of the changes that are taking place. That lightning and that thunder and that feeling of it's almost like a pat on the back or an acknowledgement or saying, this is the change that you wanted. This is the change we all wanted, and this is how it happens. This is the only way that this massive change can happen, is by crumbling so many of these old institutions and things like that. And you see the two figures falling out of the tower. I mean,
Trump and Melania.
There you go. In this country, that's very true. I mean, it's their towers being destroyed. And it's them. I mean, it's almost that same image you had of the King Kong thing, of the falling.
Right.
But we have to understand that while they fall, the bigger thing is, and that's why this whole thing is so big that's happening to us, is some of these old ways of doing things, these old institutions have got to crumble too. If the tower doesn't crumble, some other like despot is going to be able to climb back into it. So we have to do everything. So the whole message is like, this is like necessary. It's like, this is what you wanted, right? It's the message from them is like, this is what you wanted. And now we're in the process. And there's like two messages here. It's one that we're feeling this way, but we also still have this power within us. And in a way, it's almost like, you know those little cars that you used to get and you could like go like this to them and it like revved them up? and then you let them go.
Yeah, Matchbox or
It's
whatever.
almost,
Yeah.
yeah. And you like go like this, and the wheels would rev up, and you'd hear them revving up, and then you let it go, and it would go on its own. That's like what's happening to us individually. We're sort of like regaining our personal powers, like revving up. And then when things are let down, we're ready to go. We understand what we want. We understand what we're not able to put up with anymore, and the changes that we want to make personally. And then, extending outward, locally, state-wise, country-wise, planet-wise, because this has to do globally also with nature and the environment and all that. But all along, and that's why this card came first, you have that love that's behind it all, that support, that sense of purpose that comes supporting us and guiding us through this from the non-physical world.
Right. And I think that it's that idea, and I've talked about it on my channel as well. I'm sure that you have as well, that idea that there is right now, as this is all brewing and things look so dark in a way, there is this rush of spiritual energy that's coming in right now. You can feel it. You can feel that there is something that is kind of supporting us through this. Everything that's going, it's like there's layers, and it's like this top layer is so miserable, but something underneath is propping us up, helping us to get through it.
Right.
I
feel that way exactly, and I feel like there's people here on the earth that are pushing this light or gathering this light and pushing it up almost like from the ground, and then there's this whole layer above that are shining the light down also, and it's coming to like eventually illuminate everything. So it's quite a process.
And I think that it is, and I've talked about because I know that people are probably thinking, well, most people will live through this, right? And most people, even if they get the virus, they will live through it. Those that have passed away, what do you say about those people? Because a long time ago, I got the message that, this was like, I think in December or something, that I got the message that groups of people would be leaving the earth, and that to know that they are basically going to work on this project from the other side. This is what they, and to me, it wasn't so much that it was a contract and this is the way it was a contract that if things go this way, this is where I want to be. I want to be on this side working on this. I don't want to be here working it.
That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah. I think that as you mentioned just in yesterday's video of yours, it's always sad and heartbreaking and traumatic to lose someone here. I have felt when so many people have passed just for years, whenever somebody passes that I'm either close to or that, that in the world that was, an inspiration or whatever, I feel like, oh, now they're gone too. The world feels a little more lonely, like we needed that light here. And I always think of that, for whom the bell tolls, like, every man's, I'm a part of every man's death like diminishes me kind of idea. And it is that feeling. And yet I think you're exactly right. I think two things. One is exactly what you said, there's more ability to affect things on the other side, but there's also this, it's almost like a final statement when you pass away in a certain way. It's sort of like it's a statement you're able to make in your passing. And if you're passing from this pandemic, and especially in a situation where it may have been poorly handled and those kinds of feelings, it's a statement being made as well. It's that pay attention to this, pay attention to the people that are enabling this, or, there may be very personal things attached to it, family things attached to it, but it is a way of sort of making a final statement. And it is a way of transitioning and still being involved in the same work that they were here. And, so many, I'm sure, when you hear like, when you see obituaries or hear eulogies of people, it's so often like how she or he was the most wonderful person, these doctors and parents and, whoever is passing from this, it's like this wonderful thing. And that's part of the thing is they are these wonderful people, and they do continue this wonderful work on the other side. And because of they have this immense like love and spirituality that is a recognition that that continues on the other side, and that it's becomes even more powerful from the other side. And I think you've mentioned too, I think some of these, especially when we're losing these large groups of people, that connection is somehow maintained stronger for some reason, so that
Mm-hmm.
so that there's like a connection that stays, and so they're able to connect with people they left behind
Mm-hmm.
in a stronger and more immediate way than probably has ever happened before, certainly in this like sort of iteration of human life. This ability to connect, it's like so strong. There's such power now, there's such connection because of these large groups of people, and these large groups of people here that want to connect with those large groups of people that have left. It just that if you think of it as a veil, the veil is
Right.
much thinner now. The cord
Well,
is not as cut as it usually is.
right. And I think that is part of when I've talked about this shift that we're going through. I always say there's two things. There's a shift going on, a shift in consciousness going on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the end of an era. We're going to be seeing the end of an era. And the shift in consciousness to me is all about connection. Exactly what you said. It's about us connected to nature, us connected to each other,
Mm-hmm.
us connected to, sorry, I need to just get rid of this. Us connected to, nature and the world, and to the world as a whole. All the countries connected, so, and this is what's playing out. And now and you're talking about too, that kind of that spiritual connection now that's going to be there, because like you said, there's so many people on the other side that are going to be maintaining this connection with their loved ones, and keeping that line of communication open.
Yeah. And it's very much so many things that are happening right now are very symbolic, because all these messages that we keep seeing, even on TV, these commercials that they've put together so quickly, it's that alone together, and that idea of even though we're in our own little houses, that we're still together, that we still are connected. You cannot break that connection just because we're in our own little spaces. And that's symbolic of how humanity really is. We've put ourselves in these boxes of countries and places and ideals, and I'm this way and you're that way. And even with nature, of like, well, we have dominion over nature, and what this is symbolic of is us realizing that we've always been connected. We've always been a part of nature, not apart from it, but a part of it. And same with people. We've never been, I'm Canadian and you're American. We've always been in humanity. And so as we start to break down, like, these things, and as we start to like filter back out of our houses and stuff, we're going to understand that so much, just exactly what you were saying, so much clearer, that, none of that, those are just all false constructs that we've put together that have really harmed us, that done more harm than good. So.
Right. And I I agree. So the last thing I wanted to touch on, which people ask me again all the time, and I'm not, I use the cards sometimes in private readings because I need to keep things moving, and sometimes my process takes quite a while. But I wanted to ask about how you can explain how you bring your own intuition into the cards, how that works, what it feels like.
Right. Yeah, it is a little bit difficult to explain, but a lot of it has to do with practice. But I also feel like the more you do it, the more you sort of understand your own process. But for me, what I feel like I'm doing is connecting with my spirit guides and the guides of whoever I'm reading. I always ask them to participate, if they have my client's highest good at heart, which, you know, they always do. But, and also I just try to be open. And that's one thing about meditating, is where you get into that state where you're not, where your mind is just churning and churning. And so it's always important for me to meditate before him and to sage and stuff like that. But what happens is, as you read the card, the first, and this always, sometimes I'll turn over cards, I'm like, oh my God, I have no idea. What is this, you know? So I just start talking. And that's why the cards are helpful to me. I think that's why I need to use them to do this kind of work, is because they prompt things. Like if I turn over the Tower, I know that that is about things falling apart. It's sometimes about destruction and stuff like that. And as I say those words, pictures, ideas, words come into my head. And the biggest part of doing that is learning to trust that, because I feel like those are being sent from my guide, from guides, and from the client's guides. And the thing that I've found that I just have to do is speak them. And so while I might say, well, the Tower, I might start out with saying, well, the Tower, this is about destruction. This is about things falling apart. And then in my head, I'll see or hear the word school, or see a school. And then I'll say something like, but for you, I feel like this has something to do with the way that your educational goals have fallen apart, or school, something. And the minute I say that, it's sort of like going down a path, and you start to get more. And and often they'll refer back to the card. They'll be like, oh, you know, that you felt like you were in free fall. I can see that this is part, you know, they use the cards to help me, to, you know, to tune in. But it is a matter of trusting yourself to say things. And honestly, it takes a long time to do that. You know, some things are so apparent that you just say them. It's almost like you can't help it. But sometimes, and the best times, the best readings I have are when I will just fully give in and just go in and just say it. I mean, hopefully I do that all the time now, where I'll just say it. And sometimes it means nothing to me. And so it's hard to say something like, you know, I feel that, you know, I don't know, I just keep seeing this little dog and this little dog, blah, blah, blah. And then, and often I do recorded readings, so I don't have the feedback, so I'll just say it. But so often on that part that was so strong but felt, you know, odd to say or something, so often on that part I'll get specific feedback on that. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I have this little dog that, and that's, you know, you described how they looked, because you literally see it. Sometimes, like if I'm saying dog, maybe I'll see like Toto. And so I'll say that. What the picture I have is in my head, that may flash through or may just sort of be there again and again, is of Toto. And I don't think that we're talking about Toto, but somehow that is what I'm seeing. And then they'll say, you know, oh, I had this little dog, it did remind me of Toto and stuff like that. So it's so often getting this information from guides, and sometimes it's a word, sometimes like with you, it's a movie clip or a film clips. A lot of times when I'm talking about people, I'll see somebody famous or from a movie or something like that, and I know it's just a type, you know, it's this type of person. And sometimes it's that person's character, like it's somebody who's, you know, really sweet or sometimes mean or whatever. But that's giving me something to reference. That's how they can help me understand what the point that they're trying to get across. And really the biggest part is that after time, you start to recognize that when they come up, and then you just have to start to trust it. And the more you trust it, the more it comes. So the cards are like a jumping off point. And if you're just starting out and you don't feel like you've built that up enough, your guides will know that. I mean, they know you so well, and so they'll give you cards that are quite specific, and you can just use the card, but I guarantee that you'll have some sort of intuition with that card. starting out, and as you go more and more, and as you trust it more and more, it grows more and more. And you know, there's exercises and stuff that you can do, and you know, people that you can work with that can help with that. But it is, so much of it is a matter of trust, because they will help you. They always will help you. They're eager to help you. You know, they're eager to
And
communicate.
don't you think? And when you, for me, one thing that that I have noticed, and it might be a good place to start for people that don't feel like they get visions yet, or they don't feel like they can trust them yet. Sometimes I'll have something in the card that stands out to me. For example, that middle card, the one with where she's surrounded by the swords, the thing that stood out for me, the thing that jumped out for me was her blindfold. That we've been blind. We've been blind to what's been going on, and we need to take it off. So, does that happen as well for you? Where something in the card? Well, because I think that's a good place for people to start that maybe don't trust what they're getting, or maybe they don't have that kind of vision thing that comes along with this. But
that's definitely a thing that happens. The cards. I mean, that's why it's great to know the overall message of the card, and then not get too bogged down in the symbolism, because these cards, I mean, you could study one card and all the little things in it, for a very long time. But if you know the overall message, then generally, I mean, almost always something about it stands out, something about it jumps out, and you can go from there. And it can change. I mean, like, just talk about the Tower card or the Eight of Swords again, you kind of know what it's about, and you turn it over and it's like, oh, this Tower, it looks scary, but something may jump out. One thing that jumped out, the last one for me, is like the lightning and thunder, the ferocity of what's happening. And it's like that all the time, and you can trust that. It's just that feeling when you can. It's almost like when you're taking a multiplication test and they always tell you go with your first answer, don't question it. Like, if you first think it's A, then go with A. That's kind of how it is. You turn it over and you get this feeling, and that, as you start talking about it, you can build on that and have some more specifics about it. But just having that feeling is not only a good place to start. Sometimes when you first start reading, that's enough. When you turn it over and you see that blindfold sticks out more than anything, then there is this message about being blind, or blindfolded, or blindness, or not being able to see, or those kinds of things. But that first impression when you turn it over, it's very important.
Well, good. Well, I hope this has helped today. I hope people have been helped by this and the messages, and I hope that if they're reading cards, they can get back to it in just a way that might help them to pull more things out of the cards, pull more things out of their own readings. So Kris, now, do you have openings for readings right now? Do you have openings in like May or June?
I do. And I've set aside a certain amount of readings for, just like if you go on the website. So, those readings are there. And then I've opened up more half-hour recorded readings. Recorded readings I can always do easier because I don't have to squeeze them into a certain time slot. I can do them. It's like, you'll get it sometime in this 24-hour period, but I can work it in myself better. So there are those there may be more of those open. So I tried to add a few.
And then, so that's at, it's Cardvoyant Kris. Oh no, just Cardvoyant, right?
Cardvoyant.com. It's like clairvoyant, but Cardvoyant.
Cardvoyant.
Cardvoyant.com,
Cardvoyant.com. Okay, and then you can make an appointment, and I have and then Cardvoyant Kris is your channel.
Yes.
So go on and subscribe on Intuitiview. If you haven't subscribed, because I get a lot more like views than subscribers. But if you're a subscriber, then you can get, you'll know what's going on. I give money almost every month in the name of the channel, so you can be part of that as well. So yeah, so do that. So comment if you like this kind of stuff that we're doing it together, that comment on that, and visit
if they have
Chris's
ideas
channel,
of other things they'd like us to do.
Yeah, if you'd like us to talk about some stuff or have a discussion about it. Yeah. Great. So yeah, and right now I have a waiting list because I put a chunk of time on hold for classes. If you're interested in doing a class, just send me an email that says classes in the description, and I will send you an email back saying I got it, and you'll be included in the kind of the email that goes out for registration in the summer, and they'll start in the fall. They'll start at the end of September. Okay. Anything else? Any last words?
I think that's it. That's all I can think of.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for having me.
Happy Easter. Oh, you're welcome. Anytime, Kris. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter, everybody. Bye.
Bye.